Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Senor G here. We've already looked at why we use the preterite tense and how we conjugate in the preterite. Wouldn't it be great if these verbs were always little angels and they always followed the rules? But like we saw in the present tense, sometimes we have little diablos. They don't always follow the rules. Let's look at some of those. We already looked at these in our other preterite video because these are irregulars we use all the time. And you may remember that the conjugations for ser and ir are exactly the same. Let's start off with some easy irregular verbs to conjugate. For these verbs, basically all you do in the third person singular and plural, you change the I for a Y. We're calling this one a gold angel because even though there's a couple of changes, we're not changing the pronunciation. We're using the Y to preserve the same pronunciation throughout. These are even easier and really deserve the gold angel. Verbs like huir and incluir have the same endings as we just saw, but we only accent in the yo form. So we have yo ui and yo inclui. The verbs you see below them also follow this pattern. Here's another gold angel where we keep the regular conjugation except in the yo form for these verbs ending in car, gar, and zar. You see that the c changes to qu, or if you see a g, that changes to gu, and the z changes to c. All those verbs you see below follow this pattern. Let's do a few examples. We want to keep the k sound in atacar, so for yo, we change the c to qu. Ataque, atacaste, atacó, atacamos, atacastes, and atacaron. Since we're preserving the sound, that's why we see the gold angel. We want to keep the g sound throughout in the conjugation of jugar, so in the yo form, the g changes to gu. Jugué, jugaste, jugó, jugamos, jugastes, and jugaron. We're keeping the same sound, so we're happy, and so's the little angel. That's why he's gold. I'll bet you're way ahead of me here. We want to keep the s sound in comenzar, so therefore z changes to c in the yo form. Comencé, comenzaste, comenzó, comenzamos, comenzastes, and comenzaron. We're making a change in the yo form, but it's not changing the pronunciation. Therefore, we see an angel. Probably the first thing you'll notice about these irregular verbs is that these endings don't have any accent marks. The other thing you'll notice is that the irregular stem change doesn't look anything like what we've seen so far. I've tried to group some of these verbs together so that you can see some similarities between them. I'm going to say notice where there are some similarities, but I'm sure these are going to become flashcard favorites. One thing you may notice is that our favorite stem changing AR and ER verbs in the present tense are not stem changing in the preterite tense. But some IR verbs that are stem changing in the present tense, like convertir, servir, and dormir, are also stem changing in the preterite tense. You'll see the change from E to I and O to U in the third person. Let's look at their conjugations. As these conjugate, they start out okay, but when we get to the third person singular and the third person plural, we see the E changes to I for convertir and servir. And for dormir, the O changes to U. This is a blue Diablo, not a red Diablo, because we do make a change. It does change the pronunciation a little bit, but it's not a wholesale change. Here's just some odds and ends. Reír and sonreír always seem to follow their own rules, so that's flashcard material. Also, you're going to see verbs that have the N with the tilde. You're going to drop the I in the third person singular and plural.